Well, hello again. Welcome back to the Alan Hudson Podcast. Thanks very much for joining us. We've got a podcast with a difference today. Many of you Chelsea fans out there, probably all of you Chelsea fans out there, will recognise the face that we've got on the screen today. It is, of course, Richard Schaller, a lifelong Chelsea fan and an absolutely brilliant artiste. Richard, thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to join you. I'm absolutely honoured to be here, actually, to be honest with you.
Well, it's a problem. I asked you several months ago, didn't I? I asked you to come on.
You did.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit reticent because I thought, what are we going to talk about? But then when I did this illustration, and the idea came to me when I saw you at the Roberto Di Matteo event.
Oh, yes.
Back in May.
Can you just hold it up for us, Richard, the illustration?
Yeah. There we go.
Super.
And of course that depicts Alan in each of his kits.
Yes.
The Arsenal kit, the Stoke kit, the England kit.
It was very much about. As I say, I came up with the idea at the Di Matteo event because I'd done the illustration for the promotion of that. And then Alan turned up, didn't you, Alan? You turned up into the green room. You came along.
Yeah.
And I sat back and thought, it's about time I did one of Alan. Because, as Alan knows, I've...
poor Alan, poor Al, isn't it? Poor Al. He's left out of everything at Chelsea, I do say. Which I appreciate more than anything, you know. It's wonderful.
I mean, this sort of stuff is quite recent anyway. It's only since, I retired about 2 years ago, and it's only in recent times that I've started to do. But I put this down just for now. I'll bring it show it up again in a minute. I retired a couple of years ago, so it's only in recent times that I've got back into it. So, but obviously since then, I've done a couple of stuff for the Under the Bridge events. You know, the 83, 84 come along and sing this song. So I'm quite keen to do some more of this sort of stuff. But if anything, Alan, I think you came first to mind because you were the one player that I absolutely enjoyed watching, you know, when you played for us back then. The circumstances of how you left the club was irrelevant to me. It was, you know, it was how you played the game. So, you know, I've always loved those days. I've always loved those old days watching you. And in fact, even when you joined Stoke, I kind of started to watch Stoke a bit more on Match of the Day, the big match when you came on. And so I never really lost the love of how you played the game. So
that was amazing, Richard. You know, the fascinating thing for me, especially with the photograph, is, you know, there's so many terrific players played for all them teams.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and having relationships along the way with the likes of George Armstrong at Arsenal, who become right up there with me. Yeah. I never got... I mean, if I'd have played in Mexico with Bobby Moore and Bobby Charlton and Alan Ball, really, that would have been... who knows? Yeah, and that's happened, that was what I deprived of by the FA and Chelsea in a way. Yeah. But... And I always look at the game as a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, you know, and I believe that, you know, a lot of people, someone had to go at me in the pub the other day about Stoke and all this, and I feel sorry for the people because if they'd have known Waddington and the way he liked to play the game, he would have loved to have had our Chelsea team. Yeah. He would have loved, he tried to buy Osgood. If he'd have seen Charlie Cook at his best, he would have wanted Charlie straight away. He loved inside forwards, but he appreciated the art of goal scoring, and he also appreciated the art of defending. Of course, he bought Gordon Banks went in 68, 67, a year after the World Cup, and he was and you know, he had Jeff Hurst and George Eastham in the squad. So he had 3 World Cup winners at Stoke City. And that was what he done for the fans. But he didn't only do it for the fans, he done it for the youngsters coming through.
Yeah.
You know, and somebody said to me one day, a Stoke supporter, we were standing in a pub as usual, and he said to me, He said, when Tony Waddington bought you, he didn't buy Alan Hudson. He said he bought a young George Easton. And I went, you've got that in a nutshell, you know, because that was the level that you wanted to get to, because George was a fabulous player.
You must have felt quite chuffed when he told you that.
Well, I think it's I think that the reason I love that is because that's why I get the amp with Sky TV and Match of the Day and all that. They think spectators are just there to scream and holler and shout.
Yeah.
They're educational. They love the game and they know about the game. The people in Stoke were educated by Waddington by bringing these great players through, you know.
Yeah.
And they're good. Fans speak. That's why we said earlier about bringing the fans on the show, because they know that, to be perfectly honest, I know a lot of fans that knew more than Terry Neal at Arsenal. You know, they've got to pick the better team. And when about the daily, you know, that's why I went from Waddington, who was my mentor and hero, to Terry Neal at Arsenal, and he was totally
different.
The opposite of Tony, you know, where Tony kept things nice and simple. Don Howe as coach, nice and simple, the best coach. All the great managers keep things simple.
I mean, it's a similar problem today, isn't it? Where so many managers now they over enrich everything, don't they? They don't keep it simple. And you know, I suppose the best time to watch football was when you're a school kid. Certainly was for me, and going, you know, in my case, going to the Bridge and watching Alan Hudson, Peter Osgood, Charlie Cook, Ron Harris, John Hollins, Peter Benetti. Football was simple.
Yeah.
I know I was obviously younger then, but ever since certainly over the last several years, but ever since the Premier League have come into it, the game has got just that bit more complicated to enjoy. Probably because of the money in the game.
Yes.
You don't get that connection with the players that we had back then. So I can fast forward from me being so excited at the Bridge, you know, butterflies in my belly, shaking with excitement, watching you lot at the Bridge, and then me standing in the Matthew Harding Lower on Saturday night, watching that first half performance against Wolves, where we're just watching the ball go from side to side.
On a brighter note, you know, I hear people, John Terry in particular, and Frank Lampard, they talk about Eden Hazard.
Yeah.
But for a couple of years at Chelsea, he was probably the best player in the world. At his game.
Eden Hazard.
Yeah. I mean, he just glided by people. It was like ballet, you know, the working man's ballet, really. It was just glide past people.
Absolutely. The joy of football.
Yeah. But having said that, at the other end of the scale, you've got Palmer now, who does things and you go, wow. He can go past people, but he beats them. I used to like playing.
He's got a very similar vision to you, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think if you want a great midfield player, I prefer the player that plays off people.
Yes.
The midfield player. You know, the game's hard enough. It's hard to get through. You know, especially when, you know, we watched Sunderland were out this world when they drew with Arsenal the other day, in a very Wimbledon-like way.
Yeah. Simple.
So that's when you need them players who can. You see them trying to play through when they can't play through because they're not really that good enough. But people like Hazard found a way. Palmer was.
Finds a way.
I mean, I remember one ball he gave last year, and when he didn't even look and hit it inside the fullback, you know, just glanced over his shoulder and went like that. You know, it's genius.
Yeah.
And as Ron Greenwood was the one that come up with it, he said simplicity is genius, and there's no other way to put it. You know, because
I got involved in sales in the later years of my life, and I always remember a manager saying to me, he said, "There's one word you need to remember when you're selling is KISS." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Keep it simple, stupid." because a lot of salesmen just over-talk. They forget that they've got just one mouth, but they've got two ears.
Yeah.
They talk as if they've got two mouths and only one ear. So it's the same with most things in life, I suppose, but certainly football. But yeah, no, the joy of football is something I've always appreciated, which is why I was, I've never forgotten, your time at Chelsea. And I also enjoyed your time at Stoke. I mean, I had an argument with obviously when I posted this on social media, I would say 75-80% have been very positive on it.
Yeah.
And they said actually there was a guy from Stoke replied, a Stoke fan, a guy called John Grice.
Oh yes,
you remember?
I know.
Him? Yeah. So he was very.
I pay him to say something.
I think you went to his 50th or something.
Yeah, he's a very.
But anyway,
very nice
he loved it, and he sends you his best wishes. But the booth. He was part of the boothing end that thought you could walk on water.
Yeah, well, John was one of the people I love about John. I love the honesty of you don't want people to come up to you and say you're the best player I've ever seen or this and that, and say, wow, what must have been like playing with Peter Osgood, Charlie Cook, Jimmy Greenough, George Armstrong at Arsenal, and then it's amazing, and you think, wow, as I was a kid, that's who I wanted to play.
Yes.
These, and I remember once, to my credit, I think, when I first went to Stoke, I was a big George Eason fan, even well before he scored the winner against us in the League Cup.
In the League Cup final.
Yeah, I used to watch him at Arsenal. My dad take me to Arsenal and Spurs to see the great inside forwards, and so that's how you play the game. So my father was behind my success. And I remember the day I signed the first game for Stoke against Liverpool. I played for Chelsea against Liverpool in my last game, which I can't remember because I was that bad. My form was rock bottom. I played badly for so long. And I couldn't believe that I wasn't nervous. I was just happy that I had a new manager who didn't put me under any pressure and he said in the press, I've never told Alan how to play. I never will, because he already knows how to play. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bought him, Yeah. And why buy? It's probably like what we always said about getting married. Girl meets boy, loves him, wants to change him. What's all that about, But that's the same in football, They can buy a player, a young player, and say, "No, I want you to play this role." We say, "Well, why did you buy me? Why didn't you go and buy him?" And the simplicity about that.
I mean, that certainly is going on now, but it certainly went on in the 70s, didn't it? The mid 70s, when we had all these mavericks playing, like Stan Bowles, yourself, Tony Curry,
Frank Worthington.
Worthington is another one. That's it. Yeah, and
of course, Oz was a maverick.
They all seem to be mavericks, but you why not build a team around a maverick? I mean, why is he a maverick? Because people are buggering about with them, and but which is why Tony Waddington is obviously so much in your heart, because he didn't bugger about with you, did he? He built a team around you in the end. Realised who you were, how you played, your attitude, and unlike Dave Sexton. It didn't concern him.
Wonderful thing about it, Richard, was it reminds me very much of the night I see Eric Morecambe playing with Andre Previn, and he was orchestra, and he was playing all the wrong notes on the thing, and he went, "How was that?" And he went, "You're playing all the right notes, but in the wrong order."
Wrong place.
Yeah. Well, Tony said to me, "Alan, keep on doing what you're doing. You're doing everything right.
Yeah.
But get them in the right order. Get your priorities right." And that meant, unlike with Dave Sexton, he would say, "Don't worry about Monday to Friday. Worry about Saturday." And Alan hinted it in Seattle, said Alan Hudson would come in on. I've read it's in his book. He brought a book out last year. He would come in on the Sunday. He looked like he'd been drunk the whole world. He drunk the whole world to death. He said, and by Tuesday, he was slowly getting back to himself. And by Wednesday, he said, had the black bags on. He was sweat out. And by Thursday, by Friday, walk in with a suit, shirt and tie and all that. And he said, it looked like he was going to a wedding. And he couldn't wait to get out and play, you know. And that was what Tony taught me. You know, don't worry about the week. Worry about Saturday.
Whereas Dave Sexton would worry about the week.
Absolutely, he would. He would literally go round and smell your breath in midweek.
Yeah.
I tell a story about David Webb coming one day, and we said to him, "Webby, what you been drinking?" He went, "No, I've been eating garlic in the car on the way in because I didn't want him to smell the booze, you know, to make out he'd been out something to eat, you know, them kind of tricks. And when you have to try do them tricks to him, you know, to get round it, but
takes the enjoyment out of the game, doesn't it?
Well,
it takes the enjoyment of you in, you know, wanting to enjoy the game and being yourself. Yeah.
Well, I think you did it on the head. I mean, it's and I've always think, you know, say to people, why do you have to judge footballers for what they do and what they say? You know, judge them for what you see on a Saturday afternoon. They're playing for you. You know, they're not doing it for themselves.
Yeah,
I always, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I always think that players with marvelous football skills, again, we use the word maverick and that, but I think you have to treat them differently. You can't treat them like, you know, the average footballer, because the reason these footballers are average is not that they're not good footballers, but they are just the average. You know, I mean, but in there you're going to get these top class players, and I think with that skill, that natural ability comes a psychological thing with you as well. That you know that you're an entertainer on the pitch, and you like to be entertained yourself, and that probably means going out and having a few drinks and having a good time. And you know, if you're not like that,
you know. I mean, we did a show in the Clarence a few months ago, myself and the great Matthew Letizier, and he made it very clear that under Alan Ball, he played his best football because Alan Ball knew if he had the ball, they had more chance of winning. He would do something. And he had a couple of players that appreciated Matt even standing around because they knew he was going to change. They couldn't believe that they were on the field with him because he could do such wonderful things, you know.
Yes.
And it's only the understanding of the manager that gives you that kind of confidence and self-belief, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean,
can we just, guys? Can we? I mean, I'd like to people who are watching this to get a good reflection of what you've produced, Richard. Can you just show it up?
Okay.
Yes, please. Give us an idea of how long it took you to produce that.
Oh right, okay. I suppose it was a good month's work. I mean, what I tend to do first is obviously get a few references and that, and it is just really like doing 5 life drawings. You know, you just copy the reference as best you can. I mean, my wife actually told me to redraw one of them because she said I made it look like some sort of wild psychotic killer.
Which one was that? Which one was that?
I think it was this one, actually, the stove one. I had you look, your eyes were too wide. And I thought, oh, really? So
well, that's a potteries. That's what a potteries does for you. That's
I said he did like a drink.
And Richard, just to tell it, because obviously the font is too small for people to actually make that out. Just tell us what those little tributes are.
Well, I mean, what I wanted to do as well was fill in the gaps with some quotes, you know, and I suppose my big regret is I didn't really get one of Tony Waddington quoting, but as soon as I printed it and finished it, I actually found one. So it was a bit too late. But yeah, these are quotes from managers, and I've got one. Well, I'll read them out. Do you want me to read them out?
Yes, please.
Yeah. This is this is Alan's quote when he played for Chelsea in that FA Cup run when we got to the final. And this, the Chelsea fans had been wonderful throughout. So I thought, well, that'll keep a few Chelsea fans happy.
I did say that, by the way.
And then the Stoke City fan was the best player I've seen in the Stoke City team. He is a legend. Yeah. In fact, there was a hell of a lot of quotes from Stoke City fans, Alan. So I had to pick one of them.
Yeah.
And then obviously, this made me chuckle a little bit because this was from Sir Alf Ramsey. He is the best young English player I have ever seen. So what happened there? And then when you had that brilliant, iconic international debut against West Germany, Helmut Schön was the West Germany manager. They were world champions. He said, at last, England have a world-class player. At last. And then, obviously, the Bill Shankly one, when you played your first, I think it was your first game for Stoke, wasn't it, against Liverpool?
It was my first game against Liverpool, but it was the few months later we played them at Easter. We were top of the league clash, and we played them. That was a day when I weren't going to play with my bad ankle, and Tony got the Stoke Fire Brigade in and flooded the pitch.
Prepared the pitch for you.
Yeah, so we won that game, and Bill Shankly come in after, and it was quite something.
Well, I've got his quote here. You've just produced one of the finest individual performances I've seen, and that's from Bill Shankly. And we spoke about Michael Parkinson on Friday night, didn't we? And I quite like this one. He said that anyone who saw Alan Hudson play, I can just visualise Michael Parkinson saying this. Anyone who saw Alan Hudson play when he was young and intact will remember a talent to amaze. So they were the quotes on there, which you'll read. But I think the one that I discovered, which I should have put on here, was Tony Waddington's quote, where he said that he thought you would play for a World 11 before you play for England.
Yeah, he did say that. Yeah.
So
I think that was when things were, I was playing at my best, and he was just knocking. I think he was trying to get my England band dropped. I was still up at my England band when I was moved from Chelsea to Stoke. And it wasn't until Ramsey got the sack that straight away the FA knew they'd messed up, and Tony kept banging the drum for me to get into the England team, and out of the frying pan into the fire, it went from Ramsey to Revy. So I would thought, oh my God, that no chance now,
Yeah.
But it worked.
Well, you'd be surprised to know that I couldn't find a quote from Dom Revy.
Well, I'd rather him not be on this, Richard.
Oh, I know. Well, even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to find one. I mean, he was hopeless.
No.
But,
Well, just hold it up again, Richard.
Yeah, sure, mate. No problem.
I mean, obviously, a lot of people that are aware of what Alan achieved on the football pitch know about his time at Chelsea, know about his time at Stoke, know about his time at Arsenal. Most will probably have heard of that legendary performance against West Germany. But what sometimes they forget is his spell at Seattle. Now, which is obviously that picture on the right-hand side there.
That's right, yeah.
Al, tell the viewers out there and the people watching the podcast what that spell at Seattle meant to you.
Which will be
well, it was pretty much life-changing, really, because I was out of work for a few months at Arsenal. I was on the run. And he phoning me to come back. I said, it ain't going to work between me and you. You know, something's got to happen. And I was at the bridge one day, and I bumped into Bobby Moore. I said, come into the box with me and we'll have a drink. And And he said, what are you doing? You're not playing. I went, no. I said, I just can't go back there, Bob, you know. He said, well, why don't you go to Seattle? He said, I've played for Seattle. Bobby Moore played for the Sounders with Jeff Hurst, Jimmy Robinson. They all played for Sounders, so they knew about the kingdom, the beautiful city. And he went, Al, you would love it out there. He said, Jimmy Gabriel's in the other room, go and see him. And that's what happened. I went to see Jimmy. Within 36 hours, I had signed for Seattle. But what I was thinking about earlier on, what's fascinating about football and life in particular is Harry Redknapp was our reserve team. He was Jimmy's right-hand man. And he took the reserves, the ones that weren't playing for the first team. And he had a hard time, you know. Him and Jimmy got the sack after my first season, and I feel like putting a plaque up in Seattle saying that it's the worst thing that ever happened, you know, because I was their biggest signing, and I could have done. I found it hard adapting after playing with all these great players to start playing with players that have played in the 3rd division and 2nd division.
Yeah.
One in particular, Steve Buttle, was one of the greatest players I've ever played with. He played at Bournemouth. He had a wonky knee. He was fabulous. But I think what happened, the fascinating thing about it is what Harry was similar to me. He was in a car crash that they threw a blanket over Harry. He thought he was dead.
Did they really?
Yeah. And his mate from Bournemouth, Tyler.
Right. Brian Tyler was his name.
Brian Tyler.
Yeah.
Well, he died in the crash.
Yeah, I knew Simon was
Harry
killed,
immediately stopped. I think that he stopped. I'm not sure. No, he didn't stop drinking. He still had a drink when I got to Seattle. But when he got the sack at Seattle, everyone kind of thought, well, you know, he can't do the job. Well, I think I went to see him, but when he bought Paulo Di Canio and people like that, he had a wonderful team he bought, and he had all them young, good talent coming through West Ham. And I think he should have been. I really do. We've had so many terrible managers along the way. Yeah, terrible, and including the Swede and the Italian, the Swede, the Turnip. You know, Grant Taylor was a great club manager. Harry would have been a fantastic England manager. He really would. And I say the same thing about young Frank now. He would be better being an England manager than he would be a Chelsea boy, because he's too personal. He was too personal at Chelsea. With them players he played with, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, he's doing very well at Coventry City now. But, I mean, I would love him to be England manager, Frank Lampard. But I think the sentiment of him being a Chelsea manager, I mean, I wouldn't want him to go through what he's already been through at Chelsea.
Well, he couldn't go through that a third time.
Trying to be a manager. I mean, it was just
I really wanted
to see him. You know, that second spell, it was heartbreaking to see him standing there thinking, well, I can't do anything here because the owners have just got me here for the time being.
Yeah.
He just looked lost. But that wasn't down to him.
No.
That was just down to circumstances. Yeah. So,
but that's the crazy way the game goes. And he went back there. I mean, he was Chelsea's greatest ever signing. There's no doubt.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know, for the money paid for him and how many goals. I mean, a midfield player don't make that many chances in a lifetime. In a career.
I mean, I funny enough, I did an all-time Chelsea 11. My Chelsea 11. Do you want me to go and show it to you?
Yes, please.
Because I was going to do another type of illustration of it, but I've got this one for now.
This is where it all happens, Tone, in there.
Yes, is it, mate? Oh, there we go. I've just dropped something. There we go. Getting so excited. But yeah, I put this together about 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, Cole Palmer is obviously knocking on the door, I suppose. But I don't know what you think of this. But I was thinking of doing some sort of illustration for people so they can have their top Chelsea 11 in an illustration form. You know,
that'd be a great idea.
That's my all-time 11 at the moment, anyway.
That looks a half decent team, Richard.
Yeah, I mean,
we've actually done a couple of shows with our best Chelsea team with Charlie Cook. You know, and it's interesting.
I tell you, mate, this was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I'm thinking, well, what formation should I play? I mean, to leave Pat Nevin and Charlie Cook out was heartbreaking, but in the end, I just thought I've got to make a decision here. And I kind of centred on the midfield of you, Ray Wilkins, and Frank Lampard. I mean, they're the three midfielders that have brought me the most joy, anyway.
Yeah, that was your time.
And we know about Eden Hazard, and obviously I love Zola. And of course, Ozzy will always be my favourite up front.
Well, I think you're right. I think
a few were surprised I put Gary Locke at right back, but I thought he was absolutely amazing when he did play.
Well, he was my choice.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. I think if he'd broke into the team when I broke into the team, he would have been seen as the best right back in England.
Yeah, he had a bit of an injury problem.
He did, and then he came into the team. He came into the team with Chris Garland and Bill Garner, and they all came at the wrong time. They came in when there was an upheaval. You know, it was, and they were judged at the wrong time for what they were. Because Chrissy was a real good player. You know, I'm a little bit biased. He was a lovely friend of mine. I miss him dearly, but he was a good player. You know, Billy Garner could have been. You know, you see Peter Crouch and Billy Garner could do that kind of stuff, you know, but it was never played.
Bill Garner,
the
Aussie replacement,
And he turned around to me one day and he said, "I've never really done anything to Chelsea." He said, "Because I didn't really get Aussie didn't like me. I don't know." I said, "Because you're better looking than him, Bill. That's what it is." But these are the kind of things that players coming.
I mean, you say that. I met Bill Garner. When I was working, I ended up going into sales. I ended up selling window blinds and shutters, and we had a call from Southend United to fit some blinds for their training ground, which was on the A127. You know, a bit of a pokey training ground, but obviously Southend we're never a rich club. So I drove there, got all my samples out, went into the office, and who was in there as the youth team manager, because it was apparently was for the youth team area, was Bill Garner.
Yeah,
but I recognised him obviously, and I thought, I don't want to embarrass myself here, but this is Bill Garner, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, he showed me all the way. He showed me around the setup, and I measured up all the windows and everything else. And I gave him the quote, and he was going to pass it on to his superiors, you know. And then as we walked out, I said, "And it's a pleasure to meet you, Bill, because I'm a Chelsea fan." You know, I didn't know how to, you know. And so and he looked absolutely. And this was about 12 years ago, I suppose. But he looked good.
Yeah,
he looked fit. He looked good. But
it was a good addition. It was a good addition. It was a good. It's different, you know. The saddest thing at Chelsea that ever happened at Chelsea was, you know, the story behind Ian Hutchinson. You know, they were similar in many ways. Hutch was. My brother played against him in the Southern League, Guildford against Burton Albion. My father came back, raved about Hutch and put him on to Bobby Robson, but he didn't listen. And then Chelsea ended up signing him. But he was always, he frightened the life out of me. I wouldn't go for balls that he went for.
No, he was.
Oh, mate, it was too dangerous.
Yeah.
It was too dangerous. It was, he was too brave for his own good. There's bravery and stupidity, and he was mad. He was mad.
I seem to remember one game. That 69, probably the season you made your debut. I think we played Man United, and he threw himself into this melee, a bit like JT in that final against Arsenal. He just went in head first, and he was doing all this, you know.
I tell you what,
I think he should have been dead after that incident, but he came out clutching his head and just shook it off.
You know, reminded me of JT, the kid, the good player they got is Sunderland. Ballard, what's Ballard? Is it?
Was it
Dan Ballard?
Ballard.
Well, he done exactly what John Terry done against Arsenal the other night.
He's
he
a proper
just went
old-time. Yeah.
Kill me if you want to, but I'm saving this. You know.
Well, That block was absolutely unbelievable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was one of the best blocks I've seen in years.
Yeah.
That saved 2 points for Sunderland. That didn't it?
Yeah.
Really?
And it was amazing how players that kind of remind you going back to that because. It just goes to show how unique people like John Terry were.
The game needs the skillful technical players, but the game also needs players like Ballard, you know.
Of course they do.
You know, who put themselves on the line.
But for one so young, a leader.
Yeah.
A leader.
Definitely.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can we just explore a bit of your Chelsea background, Richard? Because as I said at the start, and everyone will be fully aware now, having watched some of this podcast, you're a lifelong Chelsea fan. Do you remember how and when it started? Your devotion to the Blues?
Well, it was a bit of a late start, really, because up until the age of 11, I wasn't really interested in football, and the only reason for that was two, really. One was both my mother and father weren't interested in football, so they never inspired me at all. They never supported any football team. And secondly, when I tried to play it at school, I wasn't very good. So, and if you're not good at something, you tend to shy away from it and get on with other things. And I just ended up riding bikes around alleyways and climbing trees and not playing football. And then the '66 World Cup came along. Showing my age a bit here, but I was probably about 11 then, and the whole country got absorbed with it, and I did as well. And I started, and there was obviously TV coverage of it, and I started watching it, and I just got completely into it. And I think the first player that I wanted to be was Bobby Charlton. And when he scored that goal against, was it Mexico? He ran sort of along the pitch and then hit this fantastic shot to score, and at the end of the game I went out in the garden and I had some kind of football there that I hardly ever use, and I managed to find it. And so until just before it got dark, I started running along the garden, and then I did a similar thing. I shot to score this goal. Of course the ball flew over into the field over out. I couldn't even get the ball back. So but no, that's what did it. And then, and of course, England won the World Cup. And then I wanted to be Jeff Hurst. And then
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah. No. I know, mate. But at that time, you know, he scored a hat trick, and I was just caught up with it. And suddenly, I just got into football, and I think Everton won the FA Cup that year as well. I seem to remember watching that, although that was before the World Cup. But I was getting into it, and then, but the school I was at was in Thurrock in Essex, which is a big West Ham area. So it was all West Ham. I was starting to get into West Ham. And it was only because I had an uncle. My mother came from Paddington, you know, that area. And her side of the family lived in Bayswater. And they were all Chelsea fans. So when they visited us, when they came to visit us that Christmas, and I was starting to talk about West Ham, they said, "No chance. You're coming to the bridge, Rich. You are coming to the bridge." So, but it still took a year before I went to Stamford Bridge. So in between, I started collecting scrap. You know, I had a scrapbook. Started collecting photos of the Chelsea team. Just seeing the squad in royal blue, white socks. I mean, I just fell in love with the team. You know, and but. Because my folks were never interested in football, they didn't kind of encourage me to go. So I had to wait for my uncle and cousin to get me there, which they did finally. And it was about January '68. Chelsea played Ipswich in the FA Cup third round. And Roy, my cousin, rang my mum up and said, "I've got Rich a juvenile ticket for 2 and 6, special price." And then I went, and then she she put me on the train up to London. First time I've been to London on my own on a train. Arrived at his place. My cousin, I think I mentioned him to you on Friday. He was a real character. He was a mod. He always dressed as a mod. And he opened the door and he looked absolutely immaculate, you know, and he's going to football. But he also had a good sense of humour. And he said, right, Rich, we've made some sandwiches for you. The dog's in the lounge. We'll see you when we get back. And then obviously I thought, what? I thought I was going to football. And of course, they then looked at my face, and I remember Alan saying, look at his face, look at his face. And so he had a good sense of humour. But yeah, so we went to see the game, and that was my first Chelsea match. And it was Alan Birchnell was the first Chelsea player I saw score. They won 3-0. I think Bobby Tamblyn scored as well. Yeah, I was hooked from then on. It was confirmed.
You got a very similar background to listening to your story about coming into the game. As I'm meeting Martin Knight tomorrow for Remembrance Day in the Clarence.
Oh, Martin Knight, yes, yeah.
Yeah, the lovely Martin Knight. He's a top man, and he tells he tells a wonderful story about how I said, how did you become a Chelsea supporter? He said, well, I went to Palace and I went here and I went there, and then he said they're all the same. He said one day my mate said, let's go to Chelsea, come to Chelsea. He said, I stood in the shed. He says, see this team run out in this great kit. He said, but I love the way that, and I think Chelsea, I don't know if Chelsea started it, but they used to call their names out, 1, 2.
They did, yes.
And they used to go up to the shed and go like that. He said, no, I really felt part of Chelsea. He said, I loved it. And he became a Chelsea supporter, you know.
Yeah.
We should just say, just in case anyone doesn't know who you're referring to, Martin Knight also ghost wrote the autobiographies for Charlie Cook and Peter Osgood. So
yes,
it was firmly entrenched.
He did the Dave Mackay book. He done the Getting Away from Football, the Bay City Roller. Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to meet him a couple of years ago, and I think we follow each other on Twitter and that sort of thing. So yeah, I do love his stuff. He's very he likes going back in time. In fact, I don't know if you know, but on Twitter he posts photographs and he asks people what year is it. And he's a bastard because I sit there for a quarter an hour, 20 minutes trying to work out what year it is. And so you put your suggestion there, and if you get it right, he gives you a star. But he comes up with all these lovely old photos, you know.
I tell you what he is, Richard, as well, and Tony, obviously. He's a typical keep it simple man, you know. How he made his money, he became a self-made wealthy man.
Yeah.
He looked at the newspapers and he see what they were writing about certain people, and he got in touch. One of his first people was Elton John. He wrote to Elton John. Do you know?
Oh, right.
So what he used to do, he had a big business, how it all kicked off. And they'd scour the papers, and he would put all these things that they said about these people and send them to their PR man should do it. And he would charge. He was getting £5,000, 10 grand off Elton John, whatever, you know. And that's how he started. And he sold it for over $1 million.
Brilliant.
And about 3 years later, they sold it back to him because they couldn't do it. So he took it over again and done it again. You know.
Yeah. Well, the only difference there is that I never became a millionaire.
Well,
but I mean, having said that, it was. I mean, the characters that I've met throughout the years following Chelsea, it just makes it all worth it. I mean, regardless of how well we've been as a team, you just meet some marvelous characters, and that to me is you just can't replace that, really.
Was you fortunate to have a Guinness with Mr. Harding?
Well, I met him. I'm not quite sure. I didn't really meet him, but I was in the Imperial Arms one night, and he was in there.
Yeah.
And it was during this time where he was having his, problems with Ken Bates. and he was in there, and he literally bought everyone in the pub a Guinness.
Yeah.
So yes, I did have a Guinness with Matthew Harding, but I mean, I think I might have said hi to him. But never spoke to him really. But even so, we were all there, and we're just like one big group of mates, you know. And I mean, he's another fantastic part of Chelsea's history, isn't he? Really.
Well, I go to the luncheon every year, and I just said the other day, you know, we had one the other day before one of our night matches, might have been Benfica.
Yeah.
And we had the lunch, and I just said the last word about Matthew. I said, people don't realise that if Chelsea or Abramovich done incredible, no doubt about it. You know,
absolutely.
I don't know what these people are doing. I haven't a clue what they're doing. I don't think they know what they're doing. But had Matthew become chairman, the Chelsea Football Club would not be at Stamford Bridge. It would have moved on, and they'd have got, or it'd have been built up where it was, or built down.
Yeah.
And it would have been Chelsea Football Club would have still been a family club.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I've got a love-hate relationship with Ken Bates. I mean, I think he did save the club, and he did kind of get us through the rough times. But his connection was very much, you know, if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work. Well, no, I'm trying to think the best way to explain this, but no, I think he has got a love after that 83-84 event. I mean, it's clear that he's got a love and connection with the club. But with Matthew Harding, he was a supporter.
Yeah,
Matthew Harding was a supporter.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you've got a chairman,
there is a difference between a supporter and someone who's come into the club and might be doing it very cleverly. But Matthew Harding would have done it out of pure love and passion as a supporter, and I think that would have produced different results. Definitely, yeah.
And taking the club where it needs going. I mean, you've got the people at West Ham make out their West Ham supporters. They might be West Ham, but they didn't do what's best for the club by moving the ground. They did what's best for them.
Yeah.
And Ken was like that. Ken, you know, love him or hate him, he would tell you himself.
Yes.
It was all about me. It wasn't about you. He went to any man that goes to Leeds from Chelsea. I don't
take
understand.
It or leave it, wasn't it, with Ken?
Yeah.
It was take it or leave it. I think Matthew had more sort of. I think he listened to the fans more than Ken would have done. Ken would have suffered. Ken would have suffered no fools gladly, and that included the fans.
Yeah.
But Matthew would have taken the Chelsea fans on board. No, we would have gone through a different. I mean, we probably wouldn't have developed Stamford Bridge the way that Ken Bates did, perhaps. If Matthew Harding had stayed alive, he would have concentrated on the team, wouldn't he? He would have concentrated more on the team.
It's a fact. I don't think Matthew would have come up with the electric fence idea either. No, you know.
But Matthew might have come up with Matthew Letizia. He might have come up with, you know, Ian Wright. He might have made an effort to get them to play for us. Whereas Ken Bates, obviously, you know, I know Hoddle was interested, but Ken Bates would have put, I think, a block on that. But I don't know. It's very easy, really, to assume what would have happened. But it was tragic anyway when he. You know, when he died, because he was just getting on with Ken Bates, wasn't he? I think there was a.
No, it wasn't. No.
I thought I read that they were.
No, I had lunch with him 10 days before that, Richard, and quite the opposite. And he wasn't. He was never a nasty. He never said a nasty word about him. Nothing. He was such a gentleman, you know. And he was.
Yeah.
He said, "Alan, I'm just going to have to wait."
Yeah.
Simple as that. I can't beat him. I don't want to beat him. I just want what's best for my club.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he told me the story about when they said, we don't need your money anymore. And Matthew said, I was sitting in Bermuda one day and the phone rang and they said, we want to buy this player. We haven't got, you know, and he went, but you told me you don't need my money anymore. And he said, who are you thinking of buying? And he went, oh, that's interesting. He says, yeah. He said, I've always had £8 million in my inside pocket at that time. If Chelsea phone me up and say, we want to buy this player, go ahead. You know. So it was always what was best for Chelsea, not what was best for Matthew. What was best for Chelsea.
Yeah,
he loved Chelsea Football Club, and it's them people today are few and far between, aren't they?
Yeah, I think Ken Bates was very canny and very clever, and he probably was good for Chelsea. But I mean, Abramovich obviously wouldn't have bought the club if we hadn't been in the Champions League or had that stadium that he redeveloped. But I think under Matthew Harden, I think it would have been absolutely bloody amazing if he'd have been part of the, the stadium might not have been the stadium it was when Roman Abramovich arrived. I don't know, because his concentration was on players, spending money on players. I don't know, but it would have been a different experience, definitely.
Yeah.
But we'll never know, really. But
I think we do know. I think we do know because he was a winner as well, And we have these lunches, and they said he would do anything for anybody that works in Lloyd's of London and all this and all that. Yeah. He said, but go to work for him. He said he was a bastard.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
He wanted things done. He wanted things done, And it's the same at the bridge, He loved. He worked. He only worked for money because he wanted to put the money into Chelsea.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
He
was living the dream, wasn't he? Before he got killed, he was living the dream because he was finally going to be in a position where he could do that. That's why it was so tragic, when he was killed, really. But so
young as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, going back to those, sort of following Chelsea for the first time. I mean, those first. 68 then, that would have been 68, 69, 70, 71. When I call that the golden era for me, because, as a school, I mean, up until 71 when I was taking the exams and leaving school, it was just brilliant to go to Chelsea. Just reel those names off who played for us.
I mean, Ted Drake must have done a marvellous to win the league with,
Yeah,
and bless him, Frank Blunster, my youth coach, is still alive. Yeah. Bless him. Yeah. But Doherty, I think Doherty was the beginning of Chelsea.
Yeah, well, I caught Doherty at the last kind of 8 months of his reign, probably before he got sacked. And of course, my cousin would always go on about Doherty's diamonds, and he followed Chelsea 65, 66. He went to Villa when they won 6-2. Saw them win at Main Road 4-1, and I thought to myself, bloody hell, this team is good,
Yeah.
And the funny thing about that was when that Christmas I was telling you about, when I started looking out for their results, because I think they were almost top of the table, winning home and away. I think they lost to Liverpool at home 2-1, then lost at Sheffield Wednesday 6-2, and they had an awful Christmas Christmas 66, and I thought to myself, hang on a minute.
Yeah,
this is not what he was telling me about.
Yeah,
but no, that for me was the golden era, and then of course it all went a bit pear shaped after that with the new East Stand, and then obviously I hadn't realised. I mean, when you and Ozzy left, and obviously under that dark cloud, then it became apparent that this great club who were winning trophies was struggling.
Well, when you really think and look at it in I'm always sitting down thinking about this. When you look at, I know it's a different kind of tragedy, but what Sexton and Mears done was a tragedy for that club at that time to put the East Stand in front of the two of their main players.
Yeah.
Ferguson wouldn't have, Busby wouldn't have got rid of George Best and Dennis Law, Bobby Charlton for nothing.
Yeah.
And when you for the tragedy at Hillsborough, I know it lost a lot of lives and it was heartbreaking, but it never survived. Chelsea were a little bit like that. They were, down to 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people from having beaten Roma. I was there against Roma when they beat them. One of the greatest nights at the bridge.
Yeah, I remember you telling me on Friday that.
And I remember all that. And
Bruges you come as well.
And if I had been a Chelsea supporter and gone, I don't know, it broke my heart. because I've never supported a football club like that. I support people. I don't support clubs. And I go to, I sit here and I watch football, and I love football, and don't care who they play for or whatever.
Yeah.
But Hillsborough, you know, Jeff and Wednesday have never ever recovered. You know,
no, that's a good point, actually, Alan. That is
a
very good point. Yeah.
But the people that follow Chelsea are a different breed at that time. You know, and whether it was Bates, I bought it for £1 or whatever, but I'm sure if they'd have offered it to Harry Redknapp, he would have paid £1.50 for it, you know.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
it's probably. I mean, we could talk all day. I think the three of us. But I guess it's probably time to bring the podcast to a halt.
Yeah.
We started off with the illustration, Richard.
Yeah.
Just give us another last look at it. Are you planning to do multiple prints of that, or is that just a special edition?
Yeah, I got Alan to sign a few on Friday, and I'm gonna. Yeah, I can quite easily print these off. I mean, we were talking about maybe doing a limited edition between us, so we can do that, Alan.
We got to meet and discuss that. And as I say, the only other person I've sent it to was my mate Steve Perryman.
Stevie Perryman, yeah.
And
if you want something for his show, if you want some kind of character logo for the show, not a problem at all. I've done a few things.
But he said he's you know, he was straight away. He come back to me. He said that was absolutely brilliant. He said, "Are they for sale?" And he meant it, because he does a lot of this with Tottenham. They always doing things like that, you know. And he thought that's wonderful, you know. Yeah. So that was a good thumbs up to what you and I were talking about. If you
remember when we met just before last Christmas at Paul Trevelyan's book launch, didn't we? Yeah. He's done that one on the Chelsea. And I gave him a copy of our 83-84 book, because he's a hero of mine, Paul Trevelyan, obviously. Roy the Rovers illustrator, and some of the books he's done for the football club.
That's the fact you like nutcases, you know.
And he is a bit of a nutcase. But I mean, he's over 90 now, so
he's lovely, yeah.
But he took the book, and then for about 20 minutes he just sat there looking through the 83-84 book, looking at all the drawings, and he seemed to be quite impressed with them, you know. And I thought, well, maybe they're good, but but yeah, no, I mean, no, I'll probably, you know, I mean, I'll probably do sort of similar stuff like this. I mean, I'll already do some merchandise stuff for Chidge for his Chelsea Fancast stuff, T-shirt designs, that sort of thing. So I'll you know, any ideas, anything that you want, as they say, I'm your man.
Well, brilliant. On that note, Richard,
no better man.
Just give us one last look. Just give us one last look at the illustration. Look at that, fantastic depiction of a great career. Well done.
But he's making sure he's leaving Arsenal out every time he holds it up. He don't like Arsenal, Richard. I mean, good job I never played for Tottenham.
Well, we didn't. Well, I was going to say, we won't be here now, mate. We won't be here now. No, but I mean, we didn't obviously talk about Arsenal, but obviously, I think you enjoyed your short spell with them. But maybe we'll leave that if it's time's running out.
I played in the cup final for them, and it was disappointing, and I was that was the worst I ever played for any team.
And we did talk about Terry Neal. Yeah, you fell out with
Terry. But there were so many. Great, but I'm not one to stick on the negatives. We talked about Matthew Harding and running football clubs, but Ken Fryer at Arsenal was as good as anyone has ever been in football. What he did for Arsenal, he's still going. He's about 90, Ken, now, and the mess he got swept under the mat for managers is unbelievable. And he was a gentleman. Right. Yeah. And when I left Arsenal for Seattle. He called me in the office and he said, "You're gonna go?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "You've had a bad turn here." He said, "I know what's gone on." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Can you let me do you a favour?" And I said, "What's that?" And he went, "Would you like me to negotiate your contract for Seattle?"
Oh, right. I went,
yeah. I said, "Please, Ken." And he went to London Airport, met Jack Daly, our general manager in Seattle, and the contract he gave me, I wouldn't have got a quarter of what he got, because I never cared about money. I'd have just signed it and said, I'm coming. And he more than made up, but he never got rid of the pain that caused me at Arsenal. I was in pain. Yeah. You know, it was hurtful not to go to Arsenal Football Club and not show your best form is hurtful.
Because that would have been some midfield if you hadn't had the injury problems that you had there. You know.
Well, I think if he'd have kept Alan Ball and I'd say to Chippy Brady, you know, Ball, Hudson, and Brady at their best.
Yeah,
that would have Ball, Harvey, and Kendall would have been, I think,
some midfield.
Yeah. Yeah. Great having you on, Richard.
Yeah, great having you on, Richard.
If I fancy a beer, mate, I'll pop down to the Clarence.
Absolutely. Well, it's the best pub in town, and he's got the best. He's the best. I mean, yesterday in there, you know, for the Remembrance Day, Tony goes to Dunkirk for the soldiers, and he looks after all the, you know, the old boys with Ronnie Harris hat on, RH.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
He does. He loves it, and he's going to put a big day on tomorrow. So I look a wreck this morning because I was in there yesterday. So I'm going to go wreck myself tomorrow as well. So, but it's worth it.
Can't think of a better place to get wrecked, mate.
To get wrecked.
Okay. On that positive note, we should draw to a close. Really, thanks again, Richard. It's been terrific, and best of luck with the illustration. If you if you produce a few more. Thanks a lot, mate. Thanks, Al.
Thanks, Richard. Pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Come on, you Chelsea.